Good morning, Bijou. I wanted to give you an update on our story. The working title is Edwin Was a Boy, WAS being in capital letters and suggesting that something changed in his life. I'm going to read from the beginning. I hope that part won't be boring. And then I'm going to read to you all of the new part that we have so far. Edwin was a boy, like any other boy. That is until Tuesday. And Tuesday was a Tuesday, like any other Tuesday, except it wasn't any other Tuesday. This Tuesday was Tuesday, the 14th of August. It was the last Tuesday and therefore a very important Tuesday. By last Tuesday, I don't mean that it was the last Tuesday ever, though at age 10 it might well have seemed like the last Tuesday ever. Why? Because it was the last Tuesday of summer vacation. That alone made it very special. In fact, this Tuesday, as the last Tuesday of summer vacation, was, as all Tuesdays of summer vacation, sacred, and yet, as the last, it was super sacred. The need to dig deep in life and enjoy this last Tuesday of summer vacation was foremost in young Edwin's mind. As he bolted out of the house in search of high adventure with his special boyhood friends the Thompsons, Benny, Bruce, and David. Benny, Bruce, and David were three brothers living next door to Edwin. They were his forever friends. Edwin could not remember a summer without them. Today, Edwin wanted to do something memorable to mark this last Tuesday of vacation, and memorable for Edwin meant playing with the Thompsons. So as Edwin passed out of his home, and the door slammed to the muffled cry of his mother hollering, "Slow down and don't slam that door!" He ran at breakneck speed across the lawn, past the front door of the Thompsons' big house, and around the corner near the carport, to bang at the side door and wait for someone to answer. What Edwin had not noticed in his hurry to knock was that the carport, now behind him as he faced the side door of the Thompsons' house, was missing something. Edwin stood facing the door, which opened onto the Thompsons' kitchen, and listened for footsteps or signs of life. Feeling that an eternity had passed, Edwin knocked again. "Come on, come on, come on," he uttered, anxious, almost hopping as he stood, full of energy, about to burst in anticipation. "What's taking so long?" Edwin, who was a bit short and a bit chubby, "Athletic," his mother said politely. "Husky," said the label on his khaki school pants, stood on tiptoes and peered into the Thompsons' kitchen. There was no movement, no shadow, no sound. Edwin knocked again. "What's taking so long?" Edwin thought. Something touched Edwin's leg. Any other day, a light brush on Edwin's leg might have caused Edwin to simply look down and see what it was. However, on this most sacred Tuesday morning, with Edwin wound tight as a 10-cent watch, as his father sometimes said, Edwin's senses received the light brush on the leg in stress mode and transmitted their response quick as lightning to Edwin's imagination, which in turn shouted to Edwin's excited brain, "Giant spiders!" which then caused Edwin's brain to send the message to Edwin's leg, "Jump!" and in turn, Edwin's mouth joined the circus with a "Wah!" All of this happened, of course, in an instant. The brush, the response, the leap into the air, and the shout. And in the second instant, with his feet in the air pulled up to his chest, Edwin looked down expecting to see at least one giant spider, but instead recognized the Thompsons' calico cat, Clover Bell. Clover Bell had wandered over to rub on Edwin's leg and say hello. However, once Edwin went airborne, shouting, Clover Bell, thinking they were indeed giant spiders. The imagination of little boys and girls is often like the imagination of silly kittens who fight invisible monsters. With her eyes wide, her ears up, her back bowed, hissed, hopped, and howled, then shot off in a panic toward the carport. As Edwin landed, heart pounding, he collected his wits, relieved to see that there were no giant spiders, and slumped against the door. Whew. Edwin watched Clover Bell. Clover Bell had accelerated in an instant, running from the giant spiders, but then just as quickly stopped. Now she sat licking her paw and wiping her face as if nothing had ever happened. It was at this moment that Edwin's attention came back to the carport. Edwin's eyes and his brain were trying to connect. Look, what? Don't you see it? Edwin looked at the carport, trying to understand. He studied the big open space where the Thompsons' silver blue automobile was normally at rest. The light came on. Blink! Ah! Edwin exclaimed in sudden disappointment. The Thompsons are gone! Edwin stood upright as the information sank in. He turned to look in the kitchen again, jumping to see clearly into the big kitchen. Nothing. It was true. The Thompsons were not at home. Edwin sat down despondent on the top of the small porch. His head sank down into his hands, which rested on his knees. How could this happen on so sacred a day of summer vacation? With Benny, Bruce, and David gone, what was there to do? Edwin lifted his eyes and let them search around the Thompsons' yard. From his vantage point, he could see the pond with goldfish, the big oak tree, the edge of the backyard that was visible at the corner of the house. It was all a vast wasteland without the Thompsons. Edwin stood slowly and walked to the pond. He reached down and picked up a stick which had fallen from the great oak tree, and in the shadows broke off little pieces and dropped them into the clear water of the pond. He watched as goldfish slid up and mouthed at pieces as though they were something to eat. Edwin was lost in the sadness and momentary despair, so much so that he never heard the sound of little feet on gravel walking up the driveway. There behind Edwin stood Bijou. Bijou watched as Edwin stood, dropping sticks into the water, but she never said a word. Edwin stood in his own world, but began to sense something. Suddenly he knew he wasn't alone. He turned expectantly. As he saw Bijou, his heart went on a short roller coaster ride. He was happy to see someone. He wouldn't be alone on this Tuesday morning after all. Then he noticed it was a girl. With that, his spirits dropped down the next big hill of the roller coaster. But then it was Bijou, and Bijou was no ordinary girl. His spirits rose again. Whee! Being 10 is a wild ride, even when you are standing still. Bijou stood there in the shade of the oak tree, smiling. She had her own light. She was no ordinary girl. In fact, she was enough fun that it was almost like she was part boy. She didn't mind digging in dirt, she could throw a ball, and she ran faster than some of the neighborhood boys. Bijou always wore a great big smile. Her blonde hair was braided in 2 long pigtails. Her eyes were shining, and she broke the silence. "What you doing?" "I came to see if Benny, Bruce, and David could play," began Edwin, "but they ain't home." Now Shelley, who lived at the end of the block and was also a girl, would never have let the comment go by. Ain't in the dictionary, she would have corrected, but Bijou was cool. She let it go. One more thing that made her worthy of being a good friend. "Yeah," Bijou said, "they left about a half hour ago. They had to go visit their grandma before school starts back up." Bijou was dressed in a t-shirt with a pair of overalls and a SpongeBob ball cap atop her braids. Edwin had to admit she was kind of cute. She was even barefoot. Edwin was wearing cut-off jean shorts and a gray t-shirt that said Navy. Edwin's older brother was at Annapolis and had sent the shirt as a souvenir for his younger brother. Edwin wore a Yankees ball cap. He too was barefoot. Shoes were unnecessary in Louisiana most summer days. In fact, shoes were for school and church and trips to see grandparents. This brought Edwin back to the moment and his sadness at the news Bijou had just delivered. Visits to Grandma with the Thompsons would mean the boys would be gone all day. Mrs. Thompson would use the time out to run other errands. With school closing in, they would probably go shopping as well. They might never get home. "See anyone else around the neighborhood?" asked Edwin. "Nah," responded Bijou. "Only you." Bijou picked up a stick and walked over to the pond. Edwin turned as she stood next to him, and together they broke off pieces of the stick and dropped them into the water. Edwin took a deep breath, and he stared into the water. He saw something out of the corner of his eye. It was Cloverbell. Edwin looked down and back to watch as Cloverbell closed in on Bijou's leg. Cloverbell leaned in and slipped onto the side of Bijou's leg, purring. Edwin looked up at Bijou, but Bijou never moved. She just kept pitching little sticks into the water. Aren't you afraid of giant spiders? Edwin asked. Giant spiders? Bijou asked, looking up at Edwin as though he had dropped from Mars. What are you talking about? What giant spider? Bijou lifted her hand, and a butterfly fluttered down and landed. Cool, she said. Edwin wrinkled his brow. Never mind, he said. He watched Bijou with the butterfly. As the butterfly lifted off and flew away, he picked up another stick and, looking down, poked lightly at Cloverbell, who joined in the game and gave the stick a swat. Well, that's where we are so far. I am trying as best I can to have Chapter 1 done by Saturday. I don't know. I'll have it written, I'm pretty sure. I may not have it all typed and posted, but I will clean up the typos that I see and get this posted. I'm still trying to get a publisher interested in helping us out. All right, Bijou, I love you. Have a great day. I'll be praying for you. Bye-bye.